Hi fellow travelers, this is Chris from Better Together Travel Stories. A couple weeks ago, I shared a video of how we planned for and prepared for all the COVID-19 related processes that you had to be involved in for traveling to Hawaii. It was really well received. We got a lot of feedback on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube about our notes and what we had shared. So I thought that I would take this opportunity to kind of jump into something we've talked about in the past, and that is these 10-minute travel tips that we'll be posting both on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. By the way, if you haven't yet, we'd love it if you would just take a moment right now and go ahead and subscribe right down here to the channel. But as I was saying, we've had a lot of great feedback from that and decided to go ahead and take this as a chance to jump into something we've been discussing Stephanie and I about doing, that is sharing travel tips, just 10 minutes each time, just travel tips on what we've learned and how we travel. A question that comes up most often, particularly when we share about our latest adventure, is how we're able to get just fantastic deals on the airfares. And so for this 10-minute travel tip, I'm going to focus on finding cheap airfares. Now, the first question to ask is, what is a cheap airfare? Well, for us, there are several criteria. Let's start with what we consider a cheap airfare. A cheap airfare is not saving 10% or even 20% on an airfare. For us, it's more about saving 30%, 40%, 50%, or even more. Let me share some examples. Most recently, we bought tickets to Munich, Germany because we wanted to see the Christkindl market in Europe. And for those tickets, we paid $450 each round trip out of Chicago. Prior to that, probably our best deal ever, we paid $254 each round trip going to Tokyo on American Airlines. Most recently, we took a date weekend to Denver and we paid $68 round trip on American Airlines. And for Valentine's Day this year, we went to St. Croix for 3 days and we paid $75 round trip to fly on American Airlines. And I have to tell you, the main reason we're able to take these trips is finding a significant savings in the cost of airfare. Without that, we'd probably have to either increase our budget or go on fewer trips each year. The second criteria is that it has to be someplace we're interested in going. We're not going to buy a ticket that's really dirt cheap to go someplace that we have no interest in going to. Now, it's very rare that there's places that we're not interested in going to at least once, but it's nice to find that either it's a place that's on our bucket list or a place that we maybe just didn't consider yet, but would love to have a chance to experience it. And third, it has to be an airline that we know, that we trust, that we're comfortable with. And this isn't about safety concerns. It's really more about an airline that we feel that it's an airline that we would be flying on regardless of what the cost of the ticket was. For us, for example, American Airlines is our choice of domestic air carriers. So if we have an opportunity to fly on them, that's what our preference is, because we have status on there that allows us to get very inexpensive basic economy tickets. We're willing to forego getting the mileage from those flights, but we're able to move up from a basic economy into an economy plus seating arrangement where we can reserve the seat and we have free luggage checked. Now, there's other airlines that we fly on that we may have not flown on before, but we're very comfortable in doing so, particularly for international flights. And again, these are the three criteria that we have for deciding whether or not a cheap airfare is really one that we want to take advantage of. And now let's get down to the tools we use. Our number one tool is Google Flights. Google Flights is fantastic for being able to select a specific location, give a date range, and be able to look at how the flight costs change over the calendar year. And in fact, for most flights, you'll find calendar information for cost going all the way out at least 9 to 10 months. That's great for someone who wants to plan and perhaps want to take advantage of a lower cost, even though it may not be in the high season for travel to a particular location. Addition to that is that you'll find that with Google Flights, you can set alerts so that you're notified when there are significant changes in the price for a given ticket. Now, there are a variety of other websites and apps that will do a similar process for you. We've chosen really to focus solely on Google Flights for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that we find it to be very reliable. We can go on there pretty much any time of the day and know that it's doing a great job of pulling up the most relevant flight information for us. And they do a pretty good job of immediately sending us notification when those fare costs change. The other reason that we don't use the other sites is because they typically are what I'll call online travel agencies. And because of that, they're either going to push to you specific flights and specific airlines based upon the relationships they have with those airlines, or they're going to limit you to buying the tickets from them. And in doing so, understand that you're no longer working directly with the airline. You're now working with that agent. And so, as we've seen throughout this past year with the pandemic, one of the difficulties is that if for whatever reason you're not able to take that flight, or in some cases the flight get canceled, you're now not able to work directly with the airline for either a credit or for a refund. You're having to work through the agency. And that is why for us, we just choose to do all of our flights directly with the airlines. Google Flights allows you, once you've selected the flight that you're interested in, to get connected directly to the airline with that information. They do list other sources that you can get the airline ticket from, but again, we strongly suggest from our experience that you really try to buy the tickets directly from the airlines whenever possible. Now, similar to Google Flights, but much broader, are email subscriptions that you can get that will notify you of significant changes in pricing for particular areas of the country or the globe that you're interested in going to. Our number one choice for this is Scott's Cheap Flights. There's both a free and a paid version. We actually have the paid version because we do get a broader set of notifications sent to us, as well as information on premium flights that have, say, business and first class seats available. For example, that is where we found our flight to St. Croix for $75, and most recently our flight to Tokyo for $254 round trip. In both cases, as soon as we get the email notification, I can click on it. It takes me into Google Flights. I'm able to see the entire calendar of availability as well as those specific low fares. Click on it, and in the case of the flight to Tokyo, from the time we got the notification and email and the time we had the tickets booked was less than 10 minutes. And I do have to mention a runner-up site, and that's FareDrop. That is from Kara and Nate. It is very similar to Scott's Cheap Flights, and in fact, there are times where I'll see notifications from one site just a few minutes earlier than the other. Going forward into next year, we may not actually subscribe to both because there isn't a free version to FareDrop. But for right now, we're happy to have them both so we have as much coverage as possible on the opportunities to fly for cheap fare. Now, there are three questions that we get asked most frequently. The first is, do you really buy all your tickets directly with the airline? And the answer to that is mostly yes. Really, the only times that we don't is we want to take advantage of points that we have with our credit cards. So whether it's with American Express or Chase, we'll at that time go to those sites and we'll buy the tickets directly through them. But again, we feel that we have a better experience if we do have some challenge or issue with our tickets than we do with these third-party travel agencies. For example, we just rebooked our flights to Paris, and that was through Chase. I was able to call them, and it took about an hour with all the work we had to do with the itinerary, but I was very satisfied with the experience. And we've had a very similar good experience with American Express Travel. Being able to take advantage of our points, and in some cases pay cash to upgrade to a higher level of service on the airline is probably the best thing that you can do in those situations. The second question is, do you fly basic economy, business class, or first class? And it really depends. In many cases, particularly with American Airlines, because we have a platinum status, if there's an option to take a basic economy ticket and we're not that concerned about not getting mileage credit for those flights, we'll go ahead and choose the basic economy. Because with our platinum and above status, you'll also get the chance to select the seats that you would want in the premium economy area, and you'll still have your 2 free bags for each person on the itinerary. That's really the best of both worlds in our opinion. There have been a couple times where we felt that taking advantage of the lower price ticket was more in our favor than paying more so that we could actually get the points accrued in our account. But again, this is something that you would have to determine on your own, but really take advantage of any type of cheap fare that you can get, and then decide whether, at the time of the booking or later before your flight, you go in and upgrade by paying cash for a higher grade of service on the flight itself. The third question we get asked is, are you concerned about buying tickets to locations that, for us as American citizens, you may not be able to fly into by the time your itinerary is on the calendar? Actually, we really aren't. Fortunately, most of the airlines have instituted a $0 change fee for your flights. What this means is that if you're not able to make the flight, whether it's because of your own comfort or situation, or the flight itself gets canceled, you're able to change it to a date that makes sense in the future with a credit. There's always a risk that the ticket may cost more later on down the road, but for us, we typically will, again, buy for an airline that we're comfortable with, and we know that if we can't take this flight, we have a credit with an airline that we have a comfort with and can also schedule something later on. For example, our flight to Nairobi, it's been rescheduled twice, but we're still happy that we now have a ticket for later in this year to go there. Same thing with Paris. We've rescheduled that flight 3 times now, but we still have a phenomenal airfare for what's now 6 of us going there. And for those of you who've watched this far, I have a few bonus tips. The first is that if you have any concerns at all, prior to purchasing the ticket, see if it's a low or no cost hold that you can put on the ticket for 24 hours. This is a nice way to kind of take a breath, perhaps talk with your partner or friends and make sure that this is the right ticket and the right trip for you. Also note that, at least in the US, for most flights, you do have 24 hours after you purchase the ticket to get a full, no questions asked refund. Another tip is, as soon as you have your flight booked, go in and start looking at both transportation and lodging. If you're planning on renting a car, most car rental agencies, particularly if you're working with them directly, will allow you to put your credit card in to hold it, but will not charge the card, and there's no cost for canceling. This is the best way to take advantage of the lowest cost possible for your flight and have that secured while you work through all the details. Same thing with hotels or Airbnbs. If it's an Airbnb or hotel, look to see if there is any charge for canceling prior to your itinerary. Take advantage of getting the best price possible by booking early, and then you can always go back and change this if necessary. And then one last bonus tip, these trips that we take a lot of times are trips where we have a lot of flexibility, both in terms of where we're going as well as what we're going to be doing when we get there. If you're ever in a situation where the destination that you're going to or you're coming back from, the airline is offering travel vouchers for an overbooked flight, consider taking advantage of that. It's a great way to get extra dollars to go towards future trips and add a little adventure along the way. For example, probably our best deal yet on an overbooked flight was we paid about $85 to fly down to Atlanta earlier last year. When we got to the airport, we were notified that they were overbooked. We decided to go ahead and take advantage of the voucher they were offering, which gave us $500 each for future travel. They paid for our hotel overnight and gave us some food vouchers. By doing that, we were later able to purchase our tickets to Paris, which ended up being only $80 out of pocket each. And those are our tips on cheap travel. If you found this beneficial, please click on the like button so we can know that, and consider subscribing. We really do appreciate knowing that people are subscribing because they see that our channel is something that they want to kind of keep up with and let us know that they're actively wanting to see when we have new videos available. You can also click on the bell. That will send you a direct notification when we have new videos to post. As always, we thank you guys for watching and happy travels.